Hey, welcome back to Leah's Leaves. You're looking at a bucket of carrots. Why? They're not even ready to harvest yet. So why would I be showing you a bucket of carrots? It's because we're not going to look at the carrot roots, which is what we are used to eating. We're going to look at the tops. Carrot tops are edible. So I'm going to chop a bunch of these carrot tops off and give this carrot bucket a little haircut. And what that will do is give me food tonight, and it'll also discourage the plant from trying to flower, which will produce more root development. And here we go. I'm taking about 4 inches of carrots off the top, and I'm going to put these in a stir fry tonight with some other garden veg. And we're going to talk about how you don't have to wait for your plants to be mature to eat them. Claire insisted on being in the video. Okay, now you've had your 15 minutes of fame. Right, Booger? My green stock is full of little baby greens, so I came out here and using a cut and come again method, just trimmed some outer leaves off of these little mustard plants, but left the central part of the plant intact. I took the top off of this cilantro plant that was beginning to look like it wants to bolt. You can see that it's shooting up. Well, I'm going to eat that before it gets bitter and before it changes the flavor of the rest of the plant. Right next to it, I have these wando peas. They're starting to flower, so I'm going to get my fruit soon. But they're also very tall, and they're sort of falling over, and I don't have them staked a whole lot by design. But did you know that every part of a pea plant, including the blossoms and the stems and the leaves and the pods and the shells inside, are all edible? So over here next to my beets, I saw a couple of my pea plants flopped over and encroaching on them. I pulled them. I'm going to eat them tonight. They don't have any peas on them, but they'll taste like peas in my dish. And then down here you see my red beets. Red beets seeds and Swiss chard seeds, they grow in clusters of plants. When you plant a seed, you're not actually planting one seed, you're planting several. So what I'm going to do is I looked here and there were like 3 or 4 growing in a spot. So I'm just pulling one. I'm going to eat the greens and the stalks off of this beet plant. I did that with 3 or 4 other clusters. It thins the area so that the rest of the beets can grow bigger bulbs and not encroach on each other, and it gives me food tonight. Same with the radishes next door. A few of them were going to bolt. Radish leaves are edible, but the older they get spiky and a little bit coarse. So picking them young is the best idea. I was able to find some young plants and pick them. The bulbs weren't fully formed, but the leaves are edible, so I'm going to eat those tonight. And in so doing, I thinned out the patch a little bit to leave more room for sunlight and airflow. Over here I have some little purple lady bok choy. It's just in its infancy. It'll still continue to develop. So what I did was I went around and I cut 1 or 2 leaves off of the outer edge of each plant. Same with the Spigerellolecia, which are broccoli greens. I cut about a full cup worth of broccoli greens tonight from these plants that are going to go in my stir fry. As you can see, every plant still has plenty of leaves, so they'll continue to photosynthesize and grow. And I'll get more harvest as the season goes on. I did the same thing here with my Savoy cabbage. I came in and I took 1 large leaf off of each plant. It stimulates growth, it promotes airflow, gets rid of some leaf clutter, and it's edible, even though the full cabbage head hasn't formed yet. You can see, you just like start clipping all your greens, all your brassicas, your peas, all of your kitchen herbs. Can be eaten at any stage of development. You don't have to wait for them to be a big plant. You can just take a little at a time and turn them into a meal, like I'm going to do tonight. Look at this harvest. Radishes, mustard, spinach, Spigerellolecia, purple lady bok choy, pea shoots, cilantro, carrot tops, beetroot. Probably missing, Savoy cabbage, right? All of this is going to be washed, chopped. I'll get rid of the coarse stems. I'll wash the dirt off, and then we're going to saute this down, make some jasmine rice, add a little soy sauce and Asian seasoning spice, and we'll be good to go. Okay, I'm almost done with my trimming, but I wanted to just talk you through a bit of my process here. These pea shoots, I didn't harvest the main stems because they're large enough now that they had gotten pretty sturdy. But so all of the side growth that's very tender, that's what I'm using. So the main stems will go back in the compost, but any of the side growth like these things is what I'm going to use in my cooking tonight. Same with the radishes. I trimmed a lot of the greens and I took them off the very bottom as they're young shoots right off the radish root, which is the part we usually eat, and also the very top because those are the newest growth and therefore the most tender and the least coarse and spiky. Some people don't like to eat radish leaves because of the texture, but if you pick them young enough, the texture is not an issue. For something like this baby beet, see if I can do this one-handed with my Ulu knife. Just going to take the bottom of the taproot off. And I'll go ahead and throw the little baby beet in. We're going to eat that. And then I'm just going to take the stems right off the coarsest part of the stalk. And eat stems and all. They're young enough that they'll just cook up. They'll be very tender. And you won't have to worry about not being able to chew through them. So you saw the original pile and how big it was. It just looked like a massive quantity of plants. But once the edible parts are harvested, the tasty parts, then this is what's left over. Mostly stems. Stems or coarse radish leaves. Those are going to go in the compost, which will just benefit the garden more. These we're going to give a good wash. And we're going to saute these in some olive oil and extra seasoning. Now, I live in a part of Pennsylvania that's largely underdeveloped. It's a very rural area. I live in a remote location. And so my garden, I grow organically and I don't use heavy chemicals. And our rain is clean. You know, it's as clean as it's going to be anywhere else. It's as clean as water should be. Let's put it that way. So I'm just rinsing in plain water and I'm confident that these vegetables will be fine. If you're living somewhere where you feel like maybe you're concerned about pesticides or acid rain or something like that, simple solution is that when you put them in your container to rinse them, just add a splash of white vinegar and let them sit in it for about 5 or 10 minutes before you finish the rinsing process. White vinegar is a natural antibacterial. It has antibacterial, antifungal properties. And that'll get rid of a lot of that crud that might be concerning you. Okay, I've got some oils heating up. You can just use any cooking oil. So regular vegetable oil, canola oil, anything's fine. I'm using some extra virgin olive oil because it's what I have. I added a couple splashes of sesame oil to add some nuttiness and a little smoky flavor to it. I added some fiery chili oil because it's delicious on everything. And when the time comes, I'm not going to use much seasoning. I'm going to use just a splash of some low sodium soy sauce and this Asian seasoning mix that I got at a Pampered Chef party. But basically what's in here, we'll just look at the ingredient list for a second together. It's got garlic, sesame seeds, sesame oil, some dehydrated lemon peel, some dehydrated lime, some lime juice, season, and onion or onion powder. So those are the things. You could just concoct your own or use whatever flavors you like. Another great flavor combination would be something more Middle Eastern. So it'd involve maybe some turmeric, curry, and cumin is a good combination. I've used that combination before a lot in my stir fries. Okay, it's all in there. Crackling and sizzling. I have it on medium heat now. I'm going to turn it down to medium low. And we're just going to cook this low and slow until all of those greens are wilted. And there's a little bit of crispness on the bottom section. Look at that. We went from that humongous volume of food down to this. There's probably a cup and a half of vegetables in there. Cooking the jasmine rice in that pot. I added my Asian seasoning and some sesame seeds. I shook out the vegetables. Most of us don't have salad spinners. If you do, you can use one. You could also pat the excess water off with paper towels after you've rinsed the vegetables. I just gave it a good shake in the colander, dripped off as much water as I could, and now I'm letting the high heat, but it's at medium low, but I had heated the pan enough that you can see all the water evaporating off of there, so they won't be watery, limp vegetables. They'll be very tasty and very tender without being mushy. If you find that you're having the opposite problem, and that instead of being mushy, your vegetables aren't tender enough, then you can just reduce the heat and put a cover on and trap all that water and evaporation and steam what's left for a few minutes. Especially if you're doing what I'm doing and cooking both rice and veg at the same time. While your rice is cooking, you can be steaming the vegetables, especially stems, and making them a little tender. Et voila! Beautiful. That turned out great. I'm looking forward to eating this. I'm learning a lot sharing it here. I hope you'll come grow with me. Bye.